Welcome back to Moorhead Talks. This is our May edition, our fourth show, and we're very happy to welcome Sarah Watson-Curry with us. You're one of the newest Moorhead Council members. So Sarah, we've known each other for a long time, back in the old days of the Fargo Theater.
Absolutely.
How did you come about to get interested and involved with the Moorhead City Council?
Oddly enough, I think bicycles have something to do with my with my role in public office. So,
well, a little bit about your background with
Sure.
first on, because you're obviously not only a bike advocate, but you're very involved with it.
Yeah, I think bikes are pretty cool. They're a neat tool to organize around in the community. So in 2007, myself, my husband, now husband, then partner, and some friends, we founded the FM Community Bicycle Workshop. And as I've been reflecting back on that and thinking about my role as an elected official, we interfaced a lot with city staff and the community as well. So weighing in on future plans and showing up at council and commission meetings. And I think it was a bit of a gateway. So bikes are great. They're very versatile. People are attracted to them for a variety of reasons. There's environmental, there's exercise and health benefits. It's a great way to see the community. It's energizing. If you're competitive, I'm not competitive, but you can go really fast.
Sure.
So there's just all sorts of ways that people are attracted to them. I've also was involved with the organization Great Rides most recently, and so helping champion the Great Rides Bike Share program, Streets Live, and a group rider series as well. So bikes in some ways were the gateway drug to public service, and threw my helmet into the ring in August and filed to run. And you learn some about yourself and you learn a lot about your community campaigning. So the last couple months, it's been great to get to know city staff better, departments, community partners, citizens that I never would meet, neighbors that I would never meet before. And things are coming into a bigger, clearer picture now instead of just bits and pieces. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, what's been one of the things that you've been most surprised at becoming a council member, and maybe a perception that you had before that maybe has changed about what council members do or what the city government does, or how it works or doesn't?
Sure. Well, it's a title that's hard to take off, so there are definitely times I'm out in the community as myself, but I have this title that follows me around now as a council member, and so that's something that's an honor and also can be a challenge sometimes too. If I want to, spend my personal time however I choose. I know that there are people who just always will see me as a council member. So, being conscious of, I'm kind of a goofball, so I try to, keep my humor reeled in a little bit so, people can understand and approach me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the other things that you're involved with? It's under your portfolio with the city. What are some of the other things that you're involved with?
Sure. So, one of the most surprising things for me has been the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. I love talking trash, and it's been a really eye-opening experience to know about where things are going when we throw them away, and the process, the places, and the people that are involved in taking care of those things. So that's been surprisingly one of my favorite assignments, and have gotten to dig into that in a number of different ways. I've also assigned to the Park Advisory Board, which is great. We've got a lot of, especially in the biking world, a lot of great assets in our local parks. Also serving on the Human Rights Commission, which is something that we're working to rebuild. It's been we haven't had a full quorum for meetings in the past, and so we're kind of back at the drawing board, identifying how we can build a strong foundation, and anticipate that in fall we'll be launching those meetings again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this month, especially on Moorhead Talks, we're actually highlighting a lot of these same issues with the solid waste and with the new No Recycle coming up. We'll be talking about that over the next 2 months. And then also, like you mentioned, bikes in the park. We have some of the best bike paths around. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorites? And MB Johnson's just opening up for bikes a little bit more. But what are some of your personal favorites?
My personal favorites. Well, it's really peaceful to go alongside the river. So actually, just fairly close to my house, I like to go bike behind the Yamkomst and connect up to Memorial Park. The two off-trail, sites that you're talking about are MB Johnson, which has some funding to continue expanding some features at the park there as well. Eventually, when we have that bridge that's between Memorial and Oak Grove Park, it's going to be going there and expanding it to another set of acreage as well, which will be really great. Lots of places for people to explore. And worth noting that it's, they're mixed-use trails, so that they're single-track trails that are maintained by the FM Trail Builders, but people can enjoy them in all modes. And also, Oak Grove Park has a great off-road single trail system as well. So. I'm sorry, not Oak Grove, Gooseberry Park. Yeah.
Gooseberry. Yep.
So I also have to say with a little bit of fondness too, my husband and I were married in Gooseberry Park too. So we happened to have a bike wedding in the park, so it was kind of fitting.
All right. Yeah. So with some of the portfolios you oversee and with just getting involved with city government the last, I guess, since January, just been a couple months, what's been one of the most eye-opening things that you've had that as a council member that you've seen happening and an issue that is going on in Moorhead right now?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm still learning and exploring those things. So to really understand, what challenges our community and maybe our city are facing, it's been a lot of hands-on. So in some ways, it's been a lot of field trips. There's a great deal of collaboration in our community, which is really phenomenal. So across departments and with other organizations. And I think the thing that's struck me the most is that there seems to be a lot of synergy that's popping up at the same time, and maybe it's not visible right now, but there is this new downtown association group that's kind of organizing. Moorhead Business Association has been pulsating and working with events as well. I'm one of 3 new council members who's joined, and so we've got the existing institutional knowledge of the existing members, and now I feel like we're all figuring out and ready to dig into the meat of the challenges ahead. So there's a lot of positive energy, but we know we're going to have to kind of undertake and do a little janitorial work. Sure. So really digging into our budget, really looking at some strategic planning ahead. So we've got a lot of the right pieces, but I think we've just got to get a long-term vision for our community. So I think that's been one of the most surprising things is that we've been in the clear for a number of years, but we want to make sure all these pieces are fitting together for a successful, safe, and healthy community.
What, if you can talk about it, what are some of your wish list things that you'd like to see happen? I mean, now there's wish lists that you personally have. There's other ones that, obviously when you're dealing with a council, you have to deal with other members that may or may not agree with you on certain things. And that whole process and, any constituents as well. So are there some kind of wish list ideas or just some ideas that you have for Moorhead coming up that you'd like to push forward a bit?
You're right. It's not the city of Sarah. It's the city of Moorhead. And so we do have to work together on that. I think my perspective coming into city council too is, knocking doors of constituents is really talking about building a healthy and vibrant community. Part of my wish list includes strengthening our community identity, and from some of the things that I see as our strengths, and part of it is our historical history, the history of our area. I would love to see some of those things actually return to the forefront. So I feel like we have a strong agricultural tie. We do have the spuds, the cobbers.
Right.
I'm guessing that the dragons have to be vegetarian just to tie it in for the analogy. So I would love to see some of those urban agricultural things move forward and be integrated into our community identity. And opportunities, I think that would be great opportunities to build some stronger community relationships as well. If we had spaces and places that were featuring people to get outside and get to know each other a little bit better. Of course, so I said some of those, if I have this magic wand and drawer full of endless money, we've got a lot of community resources that needs some TLC. So our council is really going to dig in and identify how we can, maintain and improve the facilities that we have to offer the community. If I had my magic wand, perhaps it would be building a few new buildings, or conjoining a few departments or agencies in the community that are beloved. So we'll see how that continues to shape as well.
It's always a process, and that, and I know that I think the City Council has some upcoming field trips, like you said before, on some other things. Are there any things coming up that you can talk about that you guys are that everyone's looking at to deal with in Moorhead?
Well, we just did this past at this past committee of a whole meeting, we had a facilities conditions report.
Right.
So that paired with our class and comp study coming up will be something to help educate that big budget we have ahead.
Sure.
As far as joint field trips, you know, we get invited to a number of things together, which is really great, and I think awesome for people to, you know, celebrate what they're doing or highlight a need in the community. Two things I can think, or a couple things I can think of coming up. Churches United for the Homeless is doing an open house and is invited the council. It's also open to the public as well. And so again, opportunity for people to get to know their neighbors, to see an organization that helps surround and wrap around people who are in crisis and get them back into our community as healthy and you know, contributing members of society. We've also have the Moorhead Business Association is doing a business tour for Small Business Week. So opportunity to get mobile. It's always interesting to see your community through a little bit of a different lens and have folks lead you around. So I'm excited about that. And we've got a few more opportunities left for visiting, getting out of town, going to the Capitol, and reminding our legislators what are priorities for our community.
Well, and that's a good place to jump onto that. I mean, obviously we have some major priorities right now.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, you know, I can think of the underpass being one of the major things we're talking about. What are some of the other things that we want to talk to the legislature about?
Yeah, you know, we're so entrenched in being border city legislation is something that we're in constant contact about. And so getting that allocated on a more consistent level, so we don't every 2 years have to spend time and resources going and working on that. So that's something that we've been having conversations with. You know, we kind of get immune to it in our community being set up in this metro area, but there have been times that before 11 o'clock I've crossed the river 4 times. So it's a very unique challenge to have, to be a border city, you know, be just blocks away from another community, a different state, different county, all sorts of different rules. So to stay competitive, that's been a really important one. And of course the bonding bill for the underpass. I guess if I go back to my magic wand, I should probably change my answer, but I'm hoping that will come through.
That happens, yeah.
So yeah, so of course transportation and access in our community can be really challenging, and so you know, I'm thinking about that from the perspective of a bike, but also, you know, people have to go to and from work, for school, for play. So traversing through our community, any ways that we can make that easier for people, you know, whether that's a multimodal transportation option, but certainly the trains are part of the reason we're here, but they can be frustrating to deal with.
It can be tough, yeah. Especially like I think one of the studies had mentioned on just the delay to get to the south side. If you're on the north side for ambulance and fire and police, that alone is a reason enough. But you know, the traffic glut that you can get on 20th can be quite difficult to deal with. And just with downtown, what are some what are some of the things your constituents have talked to you about, what they'd like to see? That have there been some other things that have popped up that a constituent said, hey, we should be doing this or we should do this?
Well, one of the things I'm excited about, so as I mentioned, you know, you're campaigning and then you come into this role. So I really miss door knocking, actually. I never thought I would say that, but it was a really phenomenal way to have your finger on the pulse of what the community is thinking. So I definitely encourage citizens to reach out to the council members, whether or not they're representing your ward or the city at large. We're here and want to know what you're talking about or what your concerns or celebrations are. Concerns that I have heard, and sometimes they're contradicting each other, of course. But you know, business and economics is a large one too. So you know, people are looking for that personal touch. So they're looking for that small, maybe mom and pop business. They're also wanting some of the amenities of a big box store. And so there's room in our community, and definitely spaces and areas for both of those to develop. So that goes back again to, you know, border states legislation and other things that we can do to be competitive and entice businesses here as well. There are some concerns, I know, again, back to transportation. this is less on the city level, but rezoning of the schools as well
Right.
too. So that's coming up and changing. And so that of course involves the trains again too, but getting kids to the right school, particularly between Robert Asp and Ellen Hopkins, there was a change in their zoning too. So there's some
that's right.
frustration or concern about that. And there has been, again, and maybe this is my own interest, but there has been this interest about agriculture or landscaping in a lot of different ways, and that's come up in the Arts and Culture Commission. It's come up with the Downtown Association. It's come up, in parks and
Right.
other things. And so, it's interesting because could be something for managing water, something for helping alleviate food issues or scarce, food deserts in our community. So I don't know where that could go, but it's just kind of interesting to hear it where neighbors are looking for places for their neighbors to rent a garden plot or,
Right.
asking about what to do with their extra produce to, be a helpful member of the community. So it's interesting when those things pop up and you don't quite know where they're going to go, but you start seeing a trend a little bit, so that's pretty cool.
No, that is very cool. And are there any things? Well, we have a lot of events and things like that. Are there anything coming up over the next month and a half people should be on the lookout for that we want to kind of include them in on?
Yeah, well, personally, so in lieu of door knocking, I'm, inspired by our mayor's Coffee with the Mayor, and want to have an opportunity to connect with the community. Former youth librarian here, so I also always want to keep it a family-friendly event. So May 3rd, I'm going to have a sort of mini party in the park at Memorial Park from 4 to 6, and I'd like to see how that goes, and if that's get a turnout, or if there are people that are interested in that. It's something I'd like to do every month during the summer season as an opportunity to connect. And then let's see, other things looking ahead.
Well, I'm thinking of any Moorhead events that are coming up in May. We have, for late May and June, especially in June, I know like Viking Fest comes up and that Yum Comps, that kind of thing. We're kind of talking through May right now, so obviously the schools and stuff all kick in, and you have graduations in early May, and then you have the end of school at the end of May, early June.
Busy time right
Very
now.
busy time.
Well, things that I'm looking forward to. Well, I already said I was former youth librarian, so of course the summer reading program is always great, and their theme this year is build a strong future, building a strong future, build a new world. Something on building. My apologies, but
No, we're going to be doing some ad campaigns for them as a matter of fact.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so always great free programming there. So just an excellent resource in our community. Of course, it's prime time to get out, so checking out those trails. Wednesdays and Saturdays, I believe there will be canoe and kayak rentals on the Red River.
Right.
So some of those opportunities where, we're ready to break out after quite a few months of being indoors. So checking those things out for sure.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to kind of get the word out about, or anything you want to talk about?
Well, in relationship to biking too, we've had some great education opportunities come up throughout the spring. The month of May is National Bike Month, so a great excuse to dust off your bike and get pedaling. But if people are looking for places or groups to ride with, a place that I often go to check on conditions is bikefm.org. And so if you've seen the updated bike trail list or bike trail map, it also lists community group rides and standing fitness rides and other things like that too. So if people want to check that out, that's one resource in our community that's bike specific and incorporates the entire metro area, obviously.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect place to leave off. So, well, Sarah, welcome to the City Council. And
thank you.
And 3 months in, you're not tired of it yet.
No buyer's remorse.
That's good. Good. Well, we'll look forward to more and the fun budget process you'll get into in September, October, November. But hopefully everything works out fine.
We'll keep it all afloat.
All right. Well, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And we'll be back with more on Moorhead Talks right after this.
The Red River rises and floods often in the spring and sometimes even summer, but Moorhead has addressed community flood risk and now has great flood protection.
Moorhead's made the investments over the last 4 years so that never happens again. the flood can be managed and not be an issue for the residents that live here.
Moorhead invested in flood protection, so now Moorhead is out of the sandbagging business. Only a few areas, and soon to be less than 30 properties in Moorhead, require flood insurance. Levees and flood structures that protect Moorhead neighborhoods are soon to be FEMA certified, exempting those properties from required flood insurance. Keep that flood insurance money in your pocket. New homes built in Moorhead subdivisions do not require flood insurance for federally insured mortgages.
So if a person did not have to have flood insurance on their home, instead of buying a $200,000 home, they can buy nearly a $250,000 home and not have their payment increase.
Well, Moorhead's got a lot of very nice developments. It is really a neat community to live in.
Welcome back to Moorhead Talks. I recently had the chance to talk with Austin Hoff about Bike FM.
May is National Bike Month. It's sponsored every year by the League of American Bicyclists. Often there's some other organizations involved as well, sponsoring organizations. They run something called the National Bike Challenge. It's just an opportunity, inviting people to get out and ride every day, ride once a week, whatever it is, ride more than you do now, basically. Just jump on a bike for transportation or for something to do after work, recreation, something to do by yourself or with the family. Really just recognizing that bikes are a good way to get around, they're a good way to have fun, and it's a great time to be out. Of course, May is just kind of leading into summer. May not be as warm as the middle of summer yet, but it's a good time to catch some fresh air on a bike. So I'm actually part of an initiative that just got started up called Bike FM. It's a local bike education network, and that's something that we do supported by the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, actually, which is sort of a state chapter of the League of American Bicyclists, which is the national organization. And so they promote National Bike Month. We're also going to help promote things like Streets Alive that are going to be happening this summer. We were involved this spring with promoting some bike classes through Moorhead Community Education. We're going to be getting the word out through a variety of other outreach things during the month of May for National Bike Month, whether that's getting safety tips out there for both for drivers of vehicles and for people who ride bikes around. We want everyone to be safe out there. Well, we've got a number of good local bike shops in town, of course. We have Shield also. Those are all good places. My biggest recommendation would be check out one of the bike shops rather than a department store, because while you are going to pay a little bit more, you're going to get a better quality of product. You're going to get a longer lasting product, and it's going to be safer too. It's going to be well assembled. You're going to have ongoing support to help out with maintenance of it. So that would really be my recommendation. Well, one option will be to seek out a used bike. But another good option, if you are close to or want to check out Great Rides Bike Share, that's a good option in downtown Fargo, especially if you just want to try a bike again for a short amount of time to see if it's something you'd want to get into more. That's an option where you can kind of just check out some of the downtown. You can ride that back and forth across the river, no one's going to stop you, but that's a good way to check out a bike on the cheap if you're looking to get back into it. So there's a few safety tips to keep in mind. One good general rule that the League of American Bicyclists puts out there is you want to sort of drive your bike, they say. So they have a motto of cyclists fare best when they act and are treated as drivers of vehicles, basically. So any good tips that you may have learned in driver's ed, as they apply to bikes, those are good things to keep in mind. Yeah, so there are a few good things to keep in mind. We call them like the need-to-know principles, kind of. And these are more, they're good things for everyone to know, but they're especially useful if you are the one on the bike. So the first one of those is follow the law, and we talked about that a little bit already. So signs, signals, if you're on the street, all those same things do apply to you. You also want to ride with traffic, of course. You want to ride on the right side of the road. That's kind of a culture shift thing. Years ago people were taught to actually ride against traffic. And if you're walking, statistically it's actually safer to walk against traffic. But if you're with a bike, you're a vehicle, you're going at a much faster speed, it's safer to be going with traffic. So follow the law, also be predictable. So riding in a straight line, that helps ensure that people can see you on the road, and that's actually the next thing, is be conspicuous. So you want to ride on the right, but you don't want to ride too far to the right. You don't want to be dodging in and out of parked cars. That way, you could be stuck behind a parked car, pop back out into the lane, and you could get hit if someone doesn't see you. So you do want to ride actually in the lane, in the travel lane, and not in the parking lane. Thinking ahead is another good tip also. Be aware of what the road surface is in front of you. It is good if you're going to try commuting to work to get a good established path, so you're familiar with with what your surroundings are going to be. You know where the stop signs are, you know where the potholes are, for better or worse. But you can anticipate those challenges. Because actually, I want to say it's 50% of crashes where bikes are involved. It's actually just the person and the bike. There's no car, there's no other bike. So that can be discouraging. But in a way, it also means that we can prevent 50% of those crashes just by people being responsible on their bikes and learning some of these skills and keeping them in mind. And then the last one of those things really is just riding ready. I mean, wearing a helmet. If you're going to go on a longer ride, consider learning how to change a tire, how to patch a tube, something like that. Those types of things, making sure your bike is safe and ready to use, those are all good things to keep in mind as well.
And obviously safety things like wear some lighter clothing and reflectors and things like that, especially at night if you're bike riding at night, because you can't be seen very well by anyone in a car.
Absolutely, and actually the law in Minnesota requires that after dark that you have a white front light and at the very least a red rear reflector. And really we'd recommend a red light, possibly flashing. If you can do that as well in the rear, that's even better. But so lights are required by law. They're not just a good thing to have. They are a requirement both in Minnesota, and if you happen to find yourself in Fargo, it's the law there as well. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. I had mentioned again, so May is National Bike Month. May 15th through the 19th is Bike to Work Week. So I'd encourage you to, if you have a wellness committee at work, if you have a group of interested employees that want to give it a try, it's really a good time to get together. Maybe you're going to ride together on the way to work. Maybe have some solidarity if you're new to it. So it's that Bike to Work week is the 15th through the 19th, and then the end of the week, that Friday, the 19th, consider holding an event at your workplace, because that is Bike to Work Day. There's a month, there's a week, and there's a day. Of course, it drills farther and farther down. And one more resource I would point out, if you want more detailed information, Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota is a fantastic resource. They actually just released something called the Minnesota Bicycling Handbook. It covers all this stuff that I've talked about. It covers some specific text of the statutes, of Minnesota law and what you are and aren't required to do. And it's got a great frequently asked questions section. So that's an even more detailed resource than some of the national guides out there to really answer a lot of those questions. Their website is bikemn.org. You can download a free PDF copy. And actually, if you know others who are interested, you can actually order printed copies as well if you want to distribute those to folks, whether it's at your workplace or school or wherever.
When I'm trail riding, the path is my own. No rules, no roads, no other vehicle.
MCAM is Moorhead Community Access Media. MCAM broadcasts the governmental and public access channels for Moorhead and also features full video and media production for you. Individuals and businesses can take advantage of low-cost media production and help support MCAM's public outreach. Featuring classic TV shows and movies and local programs, instructional and religious shows, music, and public announcements. MCAM has something for everyone. Access your community with Moorhead Community Access Media. MCAM. The Extra newspaper is the legal paper of record for Moorhead and legal newspaper for the state of Minnesota, also covering Clay County and Moorhead school legal notices. But the Extra is also the Moorhead community newspaper. Retired Judge Tom Davies is a featured columnist, along with columns by Nancy Edmonds Hansen and much more. The Extra is a free weekly publication available in the region. Pick your copy up each Thursday for local news, columnists, and events. Visit us online at thefmextra.com or find us on Facebook as The Extra Newspaper.
And Megan from the Moorhead Public Library was kind enough to speak with me about upcoming programs for this summer.
Coming up this summer is the summer reading program. Every summer we encourage children to read and hand in reading logs and offer programming every week and things like that. So this year's theme is Build a Better World. So programming will revolve around that theme. We also launched in January 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, another kind of long-term reading program for children birth to age 5. And this just encourages caregivers to read to children before kindergarten to help with early literacy and things like that. And we also just launched a mobile app where you can access basically a condensed version of our website, get access to our catalog, events near you, our ebook collection, databases, anything that we have to offer.
I know you have events through the summer. What's coming up in some of those?
Mm-hmm. I know we have the Bookmobile, the Zoomobile coming. I'm usually every summer we have Shannon from Clay County come to do some environmental programming. Our list will be coming out in May sometime with all the weekly events, so every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Well, the interesting thing with the mobile app that we just launched, it's been highly successful. We've had over 2,000 people download it so far.
Wow.
We're able to look and see what they're doing on there.
Okay.
And for the past several years, we've noticed print materials going down in demand and ebooks going up in demand. But what we found with the app is that people are accessing the catalog more than the ebook collection. So we're
Really?
going to kind of wait and see what happens with that. So our collection is shared between all of our 7 counties of locations. So if we don't have it here in Moorhead, it's just up in Ada or down in Breckenridge, you know. But if we just simply don't own it in our collection, we can get it from anywhere in Minnesota too.
And then getting a library card, if they haven't got one, what do they have to do? Just
Yep. So if you're a resident of any of the 7 counties that we serve, and have proof of address, we'll sign you up. Fargo residents, we see a lot of those here in Moorhead. You just would bring in your Fargo library card and we'd put that into our system instead of issuing one of ours.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
and
So
West
you don't
Fargo as well. We get a lot of,
have- so you
you know,
have
back
two
and forth
separate
traffic.
cards, Okay. I remember I used to have 2 different cards. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. You guys, did you recently have a book sale too?
Yep. The Friends of the Moorhead Library just had a book sale. Their best sale ever, actually.
Really?
Yep. By far.
As I recall, the library also has some meeting room space. So
Yep.
if you have a nonprofit group or something like that, you can call and try to reserve that space, right?
Yep, and it's free of cost. We have a large meeting room that can hold up to 50 and a small one for up to 10 people. Kitchenette connected to it and everything. So.
Wow. So there are a lot of resources that people may not know about.
Yeah.
And obviously a computer kiosk is pretty large, I know that.
Yeah, that's they're heavily used.
Yeah.
But you usually don't have to wait very long if you come in to print something or just use the computer. So.
DVD, you know, if you don't have streaming or if you can't find what
Yeah.
you want on Netflix, you have a DVD collection and a CD collection here.
Yeah, we do have you know, new release DVDs too. So it's not that we're buying things that are older. There's often a waiting list for newer materials, but you know, just get on the waiting list. We have all the popular items that people want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Including TV shows and stuff.
TV
like that.
shows, yep,
Yeah.
series, movies. And, you know, the same thing that we talked about earlier, if we don't have a DVD that you're looking for, we can get it from another library often as well. Not if it's a newer item, because other libraries don't want to loan that out, but we'll usually purchase it.
The month of May is very busy in Moorhead with recycling, with spring cleanup, and the start of no-sort recycling at the end of June. We talked recently with Moorhead Public Works about some of the things coming up that you can expect with no-sort recycling.
All right, so we're excited to start our no-sort recycling coming in July to Moorhead. And what will you see is that if you currently have a gray garbage tote in your driveway, between the 6th and 17th of June, we'll be dropping off one of these blue bins, 96-gallon recycling bin, right at your driveway. And so you can start immediately putting your recyclables in there loosely, all together in one bin. And then we'll start picking those up on the 3rd of July, Monday. And of course, that week, the 4th, Independence Day is on Tuesday, July 4th, and those customers will be picked up the following day on Wednesday, July 5th. The other great news is that we're going to be expanding our customer base, and we're going to be going into the apartment complexes and offering no-sort recycling to those multifamily housing residents, about 5,000 of those in the city of Moorhead. And so what will you see, if you live in an apartment, you'll see either one of these or multiple ones of these if you're in a smaller apartment complex, or if you're in a larger one, you'll see a 300-gallon blue container, or you could see a 2, 4, or 6 cubic yard blue dumpster. So don't worry about all these different sizes. All you have to remember is if it's blue, put your recycling in there, and if it's brown at your apartment complex, that's for garbage. So keep those two separated. So one of the things we won't accept are plastic bags. Those are the plastic shopping bags you pick up at any local retailer. Plastic bags cannot be recycled, but they can be taken to any of your local retailers such as Walmart, Target, Hornbachers, and they have bins there that you can recycle those for free, and they'll take care of those. So we encourage you to do that. If you live in an apartment, we still have the current 18-gallon small totes that we have for recycling now. We have some of those in stock. So if you'd like one of those, they come in handy to put your recyclables in for you to carry down from your apartment into one of those blue dumpsters or blue containers.
and you can get one of those for free at either the Public Works facility at 715th Avenue North or at City Hall at 500 Center Avenue. And for a limited time only while supplies last, limit of 1 per household. We're trying to keep it as easy as possible, so if you're a current curbside customer, your day and week remain the same. The only difference will be, instead of putting out multiple separated recycling bins, you're going to roll this one out to the curb and we'll pick it up for you on your garbage day and your current recycling week. With having multiple totes on your recycling week, we ask that you, just like your garbage tote, keep them 2 feet away from mailboxes or other obstacles, and place this one at least 2 feet away from your gray garbage tote. And if you don't have room on your driveway, you can put them on the boulevard in the grass or off to the side of your driveway if you need to, and we'll still pick them up from there. As far as storage of the tote, if you don't have room in your garage, if you can't find room or make room in your garage, you can place them neatly on the outside, the front of your garage, or to the side of your house. As long as it's neatly against the structure, you're good to go, and they don't have to be inside. The whole point of recycling is to reduce the amount of waste that we're putting in our landfill. So we just ask each and every one of you to be careful and make sure that you're recycling only recyclables and that your garbage go in the garbage. That's as easy as that. After reviewing your guide, if you still have questions about whether something is recyclable, please call 218-299-5422.
Well, thank you for joining us for Moorhead Talks this month. We'll be running this episode all the way through the month of May, and we'll be debuting our new episode at the end of May and early June to talk about upcoming summer issues. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.